So my name is Robert Payne. I'm the Director of Payroll and Tax here at the university. And so we are hosting this tax session for you guys. There is a little disclaimer up on the board here. So this presentation is informational on how to use our Glacier tax prep software that everyone should have access to. This is not intended to be tax advice. You are responsible for the tax filing and preparation of your own personal return. We are going to give you the tools today, walk you through step by step every page that you will see in the Glacier software. We will walk through, we will explain what it is asking, where you can source the information from to be able to answer the question. And Glacier will prepare the return for you. Then you'll print it out and mail it. So feel free to follow along as we go through the presentation. After the presentation, there will be we'll video this presentation, we'll put it up on the website, along with some PowerPoints of what we're going through today. So if for whatever reason you can't keep up or it gets a little overwhelming during the session, you'll be able to go home and go through each slide and go step by step through the process. And it is very user-friendly. The whole tax filing is a little bit intimidating, but the software is super user-friendly and it will walk you through step by step. Really the key is just knowing where to get the information and how to put it in the system so that it spits out the correct information. You've probably seen in other correspondence, Glacier Tax Prep is really the recommended software to use. It is vital for our international visitors to file the correct return. Glacier will file a non-resident alien tax return, which is the 1040NR. If you use other online softwares, the free filing, the Free Tax USA, the TurboTax, H&R Block, those kind of things, they do not file international tax returns. So they will file you as though you were a U.S. citizen, which is incorrect. And so it will generate a larger refund that you're not entitled to. It will give credits that you're not entitled to. The refund is much larger, but the pitfall is when folks go to file for like H-1B H-1B visas, green card applications, those kind of things. They check your tax returns, and if you had filed incorrect tax returns in the past, they will stop the process until you go back and amend all those tax returns and pay back all that money. So we really do want to drive folks to Glacier Tax Prep. It is free. We do cover the cost, so everybody should have a free access code. If for whatever reason it's not available, please just email us and let us know. You can email ISSS or you can email payroll@ohio.edu and we will get you a code if for some reason it's not available in Glacier. In the slideshow, you'll see some helpful links. It's got the link to the Glacier website. It's got links to the IRS websites for non-resident aliens, U.S. tax guide for aliens, IRS information on tax treaties, and instructions for the 1040NR and the Ohio Department of Taxation website. These are the links to get you additional information if a piece of this seems to be confusing or you just want a more technical explanation. When do I file my taxes? So due dates for the 2022 tax return, it is April 18th, that's a Tuesday this year. You will need to file either the return or file for an extension before April 18th. And that is your federal, state, and school district tax return. GTP, Glacier Tax Prep, is the software we recommend for folks to file their federal tax returns. You can get to GTP through Glacier. It'll be the third radio button. It'll be green in color. You can click on that. It will ask you a couple questions in Glacier, and then it'll move you over to the Glacier Tax Software website. So it'll ask if all this information is correct. This will be the first step still in the Glacier side. It'll ask you if your country of citizenship, your tax residency, country of permanent residence, your expiration date on your immigration status, all that stuff. It'll ask if it's the same. If it's not, you'll need to make an update before you move on to the Glacier tax software. Because it needs that information to determine the substantial presence test to figure out if you should be filing as a non-resident alien or as a resident. If you do make changes, especially when we're talking about expiration of your current status, So if you have any sort of extension on your DS 2019 or your I-20 and you haven't reported that in the Glacier and to the HR yet, you'll need to update your I-9 as well as update Glacier and turn in new forms. So this is kind of a spot where we do catch folks that maybe have recently had an extension to the I-20 due to a program extending. So if you do say no and you change, especially that expiration of current immigration status, if you extend that date, just make sure you're going to HR to update your I-9 and you're turning in new Glacier forms to the payroll team. It'll verify your address is still in the Glacier side. You'll have to enter your passport. Passport number is going to be required for any sort of tax treaties. And then you will, before you go to GTP, you will check this box saying that you understand that these forms cannot be e-filed, which means they do not file electronically. Once you get through the process, you will need to print these forms and mail them. We recommend 100% of the time that you mail anything that you mail to a government entity, you mail with tracking. Make sure you're using those green slips so that you can track that the package was delivered. Make sure you're printing that confirmation off from the postal website. So that way, in 6 months, if you haven't got your refund, you can call IRS and say, I filed 6 months ago, and they say, we don't have a record of your filing. You have proof that it was mailed and delivered. And then that will help them figure out what the issue is and get your tax return filed. So we recommend never mail anything without tracking, and also always make copies of anything that you send out in the mail, so that you have your own copies, so that if something does happen, it gets lost in the mail, you have a copy of confirmation of when it was mailed and delivered, which is all things that you will need if something happens and you have to reach out to the tax authority about the return later on. These do have to be mailed, so there is a chance it gets lost in the mail. It's also processed at one IRS center for all international returns. All non-resident returns are processed at one IRS center in Austin, Texas. So they do get backlogged. So it's just really good to have a copy of your information plus your tracking. So you will have to acknowledge that you understand that this is not an electronic filing system and you will have to print and mail these. Then you're going to go and you're going to log into glaciertax.com. And I'm going to switch over and I'm going to actually log in and just walk through the process. So you will log in. And if for any reason you forget your login, just like with Glacier, it's very easy to retrieve your login and set a new password. You just click on Forgot Login, and that will walk you through the steps to create a new login, new password. Very easy. We do not have access to anybody's login credentials, so the only way to get that reset is to walk through the Forgot Login process. So you will start with step 1.
terms of legal standpoint, I'm just trying to be like last minute. Just do it here. The fact to be honest, I'm not gonna like it like even if we don't gonna film it, like cut it.
Bear with me just 1 second here.
We don't just relax.
Hey, Sean.
You maintain only 2 months now, but doing the work. Having to learn the homes. Like you're gonna have to apply for a different level. Hey. So now you should have any service like hey, it's a different like on the F1. Hey.
You also get really
You're not the same. You're not the same time. But I'm never about a bad time. When I'm not Jack, I'm not can come and fix. Temporary battle is there is not like for now. I wish I had that. Yeah, one of my husband and me got but you know, we're gonna keep it all.
We're back on track. Sorry. All right. So once you're in GTP, once you've logged in, which like we discussed before, you can log in through Glacier or go directly to glaciertax.com and you'll be able to log in. Once in, you'll go through each of the 4 steps. If you go through each of the 4 steps, you will complete your federal tax return, and it will be ready to print and mail. The first, step 1, you're going to record your personal information. This information will flow through if you have your Glacier set up and complete. If you have not done Glacier and you're accessing this for the first time, you will have to enter this information. So you'll have name, email, your passport number, country that issued your passport, your citizen country, and your tax residency country. Those are one and the same. So your country of citizenship and your country of tax residency are the same. It's your home country, the same country that most likely issued your passport. So those will match. If they don't match, then you are not eligible for tax treaties. Some folks do have dual citizenship or are tax resident of another country, but typically all 3 of those questions will match. Then you'll go to the next question. Here I am saying when I arrive in the U.S. and when I expect to leave. Again, this should be coming through from Glacier. If not, enter here. This is going to determine your tax residency status on the next screen. You will need to enter all your trips. They're really just looking at like the last 7 years, so if you've been in and out of the U.S. frequently over the last 10 years, you don't have to go back and record every trip. Really just trying to get the number of days each year in the last 7 years that you were present in the U.S. to help determine your tax residency. The next screen is just a summary from what I entered in the screen previous. So I will hit next here. And this will make the determination on my residency status. So if you are not sure what your residency status for 2022 is, maybe you recently got an email saying your tax status is going to change to resident alien, and you're not sure how to file for 2022. If you go through the first part of GTP, it will tell you what your tax status is. And if you are a non-resident alien for tax purposes, you should be using Glacier Tax Prep. If it determines you're a resident alien for tax purposes for 2022, you'll stop. It actually won't let you go forward, so you would stop here, and then you'd be able to utilize those free online filing softwares that we talked about earlier, like Free Tax USA, TurboTax, H&R Block, or any local tax professional. But non-resident aliens file through Glacier Tax Prep. Resident aliens, this would be a showstopper, and then you would go on and file a regular 1044. All right, so step 1 is just determining tax residency status. I'm going to move on to step 2. This is where I will enter my income. So any income you received in 2022 that you got a tax form for, you will enter that information here. If you had, from Ohio University, if you did not get a form to declare the income, then it was deemed not taxable and you don't report it on your tax return. So a common issue is taxable scholarships. So I'm a graduate student, I come here, I have a GA-ship, and I get a stipend, and I get a scholarship to cover my tuition, right? So the tuition is not necessarily taxable income. If your tuition is just covering books, fees, and tuition, it is not considered taxable. You did not get a Form 1042-S showing that it's taxable income. That would not go on this return. Your stipend through your graduate appointment is reported on your W-2, and you will enter that information on here, but you would leave off the taxable scholarship. Now, if you got the Form 1042-S, which would be available in Glacier, and it showed that you had a taxable scholarship, and so we're talking about taxable scholarships, it's the things that you get a scholarship for. So you get an award into your student account that is for something other than tuition, fees, and books, like a travel award, maybe you get a prize, for entering a video contest or a writing contest, and you get a prize for that, and we took taxes out of it. So anything covering travel, anything covering conferences, things like that, that would be considered a non-qualified scholarship. You would have got a 1042-S for that. The 1042-S would be available in Glacier to review and add. If you are a grad student and you have a graduate appointment, your stipend is recorded on your W-2. So it's very important to understand that so that we're not searching for a 1042-S that we're not going to get, okay? So as you want to add tax forms here, you hit add form, it'll open the screen, and you will enter the information from your physical form, your W-2, your 1042-S, whatever it is, into the system. This system will allow you to claim all income. So even if you have income from sources outside of Ohio University, maybe you were at another school in the spring and then you moved to Ohio University in the fall, or you have other, bank interest or anything like that, you can record all that in Glacier. We typically are only able to help with questions related to payments issued from Ohio University. A lot of times we can't answer questions based on payments from other companies. So to enter the form, you hit add form, it'll open the screen, and you will take the information from your W-2 and enter it directly into the W-2 screen. So I'm entering my wages, I'm entering my tax withheld, I'm entering my state information, state income, and you will see that the numbers on the forms are the same that are on the form that you have for your W-2. So you're just replicating information from your W-2 into the screen. You can enter multiple W-2s, whatever you have. You can enter it in here. So it doesn't have to, if you have multiple, because you have a different school, or maybe you have CPT over the summer or something, you work for an outside company, all that stuff can go into this system to help you. At the bottom, there's a question, who reported this information to you? So for us, this is a college or university. And so what this is checking, just that you are earning income from sources that is allowable under your visa. So as we know, we can't, if we're on an F1 visa, we can't have jobs unless it's through outside the university, unless it's approved CPT or OPT. So it is checking for things like that. If I want to add my 1042S, and just again, I want to reiterate that not everyone gets a 1042S. It's based on the type of payment you had, and if you have tax treaty. So you same thing, you take the form 1042S, replicate the information into the form on the screen. So we're declaring our income code. The yellow squares are the ones that are required. You have to fill those out. So you'll get, so once you complete all your income, same thing, it's asking who submitted the form to you. I came from college or university. So once I'm comfortable that I have all my income reported in the income screen, I can go to the next screen. This is just a summary. So I am saying that I had two sources of income. I had my wages through my graduate appointment, and then I had $1,500 scholarship that was deemed taxable. I recorded both of those, so I had a total income of $21,500 for the tax year. So once all the income is in there, you're ready to go to step 3. Step 3, it's going to enter this is your current U.S. address. So this is the address that's going to show up on the tax return. This is the address where they will mail things to you if there's any sort of correspondence that's going to happen. So you want this to be your current address, or if you are moving directly. So if I was moving next week, I'd want to go ahead and put my address for that's going to be next week, where I'm going to be living when they start trying to correspond with me. Now, if you're not sure what your address is going to be in the fall, that's fine. Use today's address. If you need to update the address with the IRS, there's a separate form to do that. But this will be your current address. So you want to make sure you're not using an address that you just moved away from. Next, you'll put your permanent foreign address. So this is the address back home. Next, if you have a Social Security number or an I-10, so if you have your blue card with your number on it, you enter it here. If you do not have one, you'll indicate that here. You will need to have a number for them to issue you a refund for your taxes. So if you've not yet gotten your Social Security number, or it's not recorded on your W-2, you will need to apply for the number, get the number, and then file your taxes. So if you look at your W-2 and your Social Security number is incorrect, and you do have your Social Security number, you will need to get with payroll and get a new W-2 issued before you finish this return and mail it out. So if you have not yet updated your Social Security number with payroll and the number is incorrect on the form you have, you will need to get that fixed before filing. Marital status, this is your marital status on the last day of 2022. Single or married, it doesn't matter where your spouse is living. It's what your legal marital status is on December 31st of 2022. You will see once we go through the process, it doesn't matter what you pick here, you're going to file a single tax return. So non-resident aliens have to file a single regardless married, regardless of having children or not. There's no dependence on the tax return, and you don't get to claim a spouse. But it does ask you this question because if your spouse is present in the U.S., there is a form that they should fill out annually to track their substantial presence test, and so this software will help you with that. For this example, I'm going to go ahead and select married. Put it next. All right, academic institution details. So this is going to be the information off of your I-20. This should be your DSO. At the bottom, the slideshow shows where to source that information off of your I-20. We use the university's address. I use ISSS's phone number. But you just put the name of whoever your DSO is on your I-20.
Question.
Yep.
So, if I had an updated I-20, when I first came, I had Susan Specs or something, but now I got one from ISSS. Which one should I do?
The one from today, the most current, yep. So whoever your current officer is that signed your last form is who you would want to use. This is just in case they have any questions about the actual visa, who they can reach out to for questions about the current visa status. The next question is,
I have a question at the back of the room. Go ahead.
yeah,
What if you're the cost of like getting a new I-20 vertical ISSS, for example, it's not been delivered yet?
yeah, I would just use what's on your current active ones. Yeah, so, and once you get the new one, then you could switch if the information's different, but I would just take a snapshot of today when you're doing it, whoever is on your current active visa. That's a good question, yeah.
My question is, so if you change your address and you change that to your student center, but it didn't went to HR, and I submitted my 3 forms but didn't get anything back from them, would that change my status or not? Would that affect that?
No, it would not have an impact. So if your address is incorrect in HR, you still want to use your current mailing address on your tax forms. So there's no correlation between like the address on your W-2 and what you file on your tax return. So you don't have to worry about if those happen to be not matching up when you file. But you do want to make sure you have a good current mailing address on this form when you send it in. So.
No, by that I mean is so my student account center address is different than the HR one, like the one on my W-2, it's just the apartment number.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I would go ahead and update that with HR. It won't have an impact on the tax filing, but you would want the correct address on your with HR. So they will not fix the W-2, but they will update it so it's correct going forward and on next year's. All right. This question: did you use any portion of the scholarship money to purchase tuition or fees directly from your college or university? So I said that I got a $1,500 taxable scholarship. It's just asking me, did I take that money and turn around and buy required books, pay fees, pay any outstanding tuition balance, anything like that? Because it would lower the taxable portion of that. Typically the answer is no, and the answer is 0 on this. Because typically I'm getting that taxable scholarship because it's a travel award or something like that, or I want a prize. So I'm not typically taking that money and paying for books and fees. But if you did happen to, you would indicate the amount you spent on those here. You would need receipts to back up those purchases. If you pay through things with your student account, though, you'd be able to track that through your student portal. Hit next here. All right, there is a series of questions on this last section. Did you make any contributions to U.S. charities? So this is giving actual money to U.S. charities. So churches, things like Goodwill, any kind of nonprofits, you would have received a slip saying how much money you donated to this exempt charity that you would use here. This is going to be individualized. We would have no idea if you gave money to charity, but you would need a receipt showing how much you gave. So if you are just walking by and putting, change in the Salvation Army buckets in front of the Walmart, that is not tax deductible because it's not recorded on how much you gave. But if you're a member of a church and you give money to a church, they will give you a slip back. Same thing if you write a check to, Goodwill or write a check to Salvation Army, you'll get a slip back saying how much you donated. So that's what it's asking there. If you did give any money to U.S. charities, you can take that as a deduction. Did you make any estimated federal tax payments? Typically, the answer here is no. This would mean that you personally wrote a check and mailed it to the IRS to pay taxes in advance. Typically, the answer is no. You would know if you did that because you would physically have to print out a voucher form, write a check, and put it in the mail. Typically, we withhold money from all of your payments here at the university. So typically, individuals do not have a reason to make estimated payments. So digital assets or virtual currency, this question is asking you, did you sell, exchange, gift, or otherwise dispose of any digital assets? So this is like Bitcoin kind of thing. If you did, if you own Bitcoin or any other virtual currency, you will need to say yes to this question. Even if you didn't transact in the year, it's just something that they ask everybody that files a tax return, whether or not you have virtual currency. And then some relationship to the U.S. questions. Have you ever applied? Lawful permanent residence, green card, yes or no? Have you ever been approved? Have you ever been a U.S. citizen? So typically the answer is no to all these questions. Then it's going to ask you, have you ever filed a U.S. tax return for prior years? Yes or no. If this is your first year here, maybe not. If you've been here in the U.S. for several years, yes, you've probably filed a return. If you've been here and you should have filed a return but you didn't, it tells you right here, and you will select no. This is telling them what form you have on file from last year. If you filed and you use Glacier, you filed a 1040-NR. If you use some other software, you will need to look at your records to see what you did in previous years. But if you're a non-resident alien, you should be filing the 1040-NR. It says, were you eligible for a tax refund? You instructed the IRS to keep the money and apply it to the refund you have in 2022. So this is telling, on last year's tax return, you told the government to not issue your refund and keep it and credit it towards next year's taxes. This typically is no. Typically folks are getting refunds or getting money back when they file their tax return. Did you file a state return on which you were required to pay additional state taxes? So did you file an Ohio tax return and you owed more money? So if you did, you will say yes here, and then you will say how much. This is another credit that is calculated later, so they want to know any additional state taxes. Typically, same thing. Typically, the answer is no. We take out the required taxes from your pay, so typically no one is owing at the end of the year. You're not owing federal, you're not owing state. So we'll select next, which is the next one. All right. Okay, so for me, this does say that I owe because I didn't show taxes taken out of my scholarship. So this will tell you the balance. It tells you how to pay if you need to. It'll also ask you if you have a refund, how you want the refund. You can enter bank information and it'll deposit it directly into your account. That is the recommended method. That is the fastest way to get your refund. It's also the way to ensure that you actually get the refund, because if you do ask for a check in the mail, they're going to mail it to the address on file. So if you do happen to move before the check is issued, it's going to go to the wrong address. So bank deposit is the recommended method. You will select here again saying you understand that this is not filed electronically and I have to print, review, and sign. I hit next. Now this is asking me questions based on me declaring my marital status earlier. Was my spouse present in the U.S.? I'll say yes here. Did your spouse receive any income? I'll say no. So F2 dependents are not working typically. Do you have any dependents who are present in the U.S.? I will say no here. So next. Then you'll enter your spouse or your children's information here. And this is just preparing the Form 8843 for them. And I'll show you those here in just a second. All right, so now my tax return is finished. I'm ready to print and review my return. This is a list of all the required pieces of the tax return that will print out. So I will print view here. The first page of the return that prints is the instructions on what to do next. So it's important to review those. It's important to print that out. It'll give you the address where to mail the return. It'll give you tips on. So it's going to give you the summary for VIO, how to pay, tell you that you print and sign. Bold red letters here is the address that you're going to mail your return to. Again, mail it with tracking. Make copies of everything you put in the envelope. Because once it's gone, you don't have access to it anymore. The other thing to remember is once you've completed in Glacier, we don't have any access to any of your information. So once it's out the door, we can't track it, we can't figure out what's holding your refund up, and the IRS won't talk to us about your personal return. So if 5 months down the road you still haven't gotten your refund, you don't know what to do, you can see that it was delivered, the only option is to call the IRS and figure out what's going on, if there's some sort of delay or error on the return. So since this is self-prepared and it's mailed, there is no way for us to know what happens once you guys finish the process and print it out here. It gives you instructions on what all needs to go in the tax return. You will also need to make sure that you include a copy of whatever tax forms show your income. So your W-2, your 1042-S, if you got any kind of 1099s for interest or whatever, all that stuff, you have to have at least a copy in with the return. So if you don't send your W-2, it will delay your return. They will reject it and send it back to you. And then again, if you happen to move, you're not going to get that mail. It's going to get lost. And then it's going to be down the road before they will respond to you and tell you to refile your return. So this tells you the due date. You must submit and file by April 18. And then we'll go down in. So here's the returns. So this populated the return for me. I have my marital status, I have my name, my address, shows my income, shows my balance due. And then it has all of my attachments, my Schedule 1, my itemized deductions, my other information. This shows my visa status, my passport, all that stuff. This is the 8843. So the title is a little confusing. Statement for exempt individuals and individuals with medical conditions. So this is the form that records the number of days you're in the U.S. to track your substantial presence, which is for F visa holders. Once you're here 5 years, then you switch to a resident alien for tax purposes. You're no longer a non-resident, which changes how you file your tax return. J visas is 2 years, and so this form 8843 records that information with the IRS so that they have a record of when your change date is as well. And then there's a agreement statement that you'll sign. And then this is filling it out for my spouse so that they could complete the 8843 and mail it in. They would mail it separate in its own envelope. All right, so that's the federal tax return process. So that will get you through the federal return. Now everybody is required to file if you live and work in Ohio, you're required to file an Ohio return, and if you're here on main campus in Athens County, you need to file an Athens City School District return, even if you're not subject to the tax. So this is very important. If you're a non-resident alien for tax purposes, typically you are not subject to the school district tax. So everybody probably remembers when they filled out their forms at HR, they put permanent resident of their home country on their state tax forms, and there's no school district tax taken out of your paycheck. So the thing to remember is you still have to file a return and tell them that you're a non-resident, and if you don't, they will send you a bill for school district tax if you don't file a return. If you file a return and you are asking for a refund, they will assume you're a resident of the school district and they will send you a bill, because we do not withhold school district taxes from non-residents because you're not subject to the tax, okay? And so when we look at our W-2, it would need to say school district tax on the bottom, not Athens. Athens is your city taxes that you do not get back. That's a separate tax in the school district. So we'll switch over and we will start going, I'll go through where to find the information to file.
Question before you move it.
Yeah. Yep.
The form that you file into spouse and children.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a spouse and 3 children, am I filing 4 forms?
Yeah, it'd be 5 total. It'd be yours, plus your spouse, plus your 3 children. So there'd be 5 separate filings. Now, when we're talking about children, we're only talking about children not born in the U.S. So if you have, say you have 3 children, your 2 oldest children were born back home, and they came with you as F2 dependents, and then you had a 3rd child while you were here studying. That child would be considered a U.S. citizen if they were born here, and so they would not need that form. So that's the only thing I would caution there, is just understanding what their citizenship is. But if they're F2 dependents, yeah, you would go ahead and file that for everybody. This will walk you through, you just need their name, birthday, that kind of thing. All right, filing the state of Ohio and Ohio School District income tax returns. This is just the same disclaimer. This is for informational purposes to walk you through where to find the information to help you self-file your tax returns. Helpful links. This will take you, so there are 2 options in filing in the state of Ohio. The first one is you can do a paper form, fill it out, mail it in. You will have to do that if this is your first year filing in the state of Ohio. You will have to do a paper form and mail it in. Once you have established your account with the state of Ohio, you can do what's called the iFile system, which is an electronic online filing. It's very easy. It walks you through step by step, just like Glacier tax prep. But the first year is a little more troublesome. You will have to figure it out and walk through and fill out the paper form and mail it in. Same rules apply. Make sure you make copies. Make sure you're mailing it with tracking. Make sure you're tracking it that it gets to its destination on time. And then follow up directly with them if there's any delay in the refund. The iFile, if you filed last year in the state of Ohio, then this year you should be able to just log into your online account and file online, super quick and easy. Same thing, it walks you through, you fill out your W-2 information, everything right on the website. We're going to walk through the paper process. All right, so do I need to file an Ohio return? Yes, if you're physically here and you worked at Ohio University last year, yes, you need to file an Ohio return. Every Ohio resident and recording resident subject to Ohio income tax. Every non-resident having Ohio-sourced income must file. So income based here in Ohio. So if you've got income from Ohio University for 22, you most likely have a requirement to file. All right. State of Ohio School District tax file. So we can use the free resources on the State of Ohio website. Also, when you get to the end of Glacier, there is a little link you can click on. It'll take you out to the Ohio website to help you find the forms. If the Ohio process is overwhelming, you can always seek the help of a local tax professional. All right, I'm a non-resident alien for U.S. tax purposes. What is my Ohio tax residency status? So when we look at the Ohio forms, there's going to be a resident and a non-resident box, right? So the thing to remember, so this gives you an explanation of where, in the instructions, where to find the information to help decide if you're resident or non-resident. So when we're talking about the state of Ohio, residency status is determined based on where you're domiciled. So where are you sleeping at night? If you are sleeping here in Ohio, you're an Ohio resident. It's that simple. So if you're here on campus, physically on campus in 2022, you are at least a resident for part of the year, whatever period of time you were here. School district tax, the residency determination is different. Same with the federal government. But for Ohio, it's very simple. Were you here in the state? If you were, you're considered a resident. So these are the definitions on how to help make that determination for yourself. Here's the links to where to find the forms. And then here are the actual forms. Okay, so here's the top portion of the state form. This is a 2020 form, but they look exactly the same. There have been no substantial changes. So this is what the form would look like. You're going to put your social security number, you're going to put your name, you're going to put your address. You will need to put a school district number. This is going to be your address, and that school district number is the driver on whether or not the state of Ohio is expecting the school district tax return to be filed. 0502 is the Athens school district number. So if you're here in Athens, that is the school district number. When you file your school district return is when you will indicate that you are a non-resident. It's going to ask you residency status for your party or non-resident. Here's the definition: resident, you're an Ohio resident if you're domiciled in Ohio. So just like what we just talked about, page 10 of the instructions walks you through the residency determination. Single, married, married separate, and your spouse's SSN. Your filing status for the state of Ohio needs to match your filing status on your federal return. So for everyone that used Glacier Tax Prep, it is going to be single. Single, it'll be this single head of house or qualifying widow. Your federal adjusted gross income, if we're looking at our 1040 NR, it's going to be line 35. You're going to take that from the return we prepared on Glacier and type it in to the paper tax return in the Ohio website. All right, additions. So line 2 on the Ohio income tax return are additions. These are taxpayer specific. We can't advise you if they make sense for you, if you qualify for any additions. Typically the answer is no. And if you have no additions, you just leave it blank. You don't have to fill it out. Same thing with deductions. If you're not sure if it pertains to you, look at the instructions. If it doesn't, leave it blank. Typically the answer is no. Exemption amount. Page 13, line 4, your personal dependent exemption. You'll enter that number here, so you'll go to page 13 of the instructions. It'll tell you what the amount is. You'll enter that here. The amounts are also in this slide. So if your income was under $40,000, you will write $2,400, $2,400 on line 4. If you made more than 40, you'll use the amount in the box here. But you can find those in the instructions. All right, tax on line 7, calculate the tax on your Ohio income base. So you will need to go to the tax brackets in the instructions. Starts on page 32. You will take how much income you had, find it in the bracket, and then that'll tell you how much tax you owe. Credits are taxpayer specific. Typically the answer is no. If you don't have any credits, leave it blank. Refundable credits, same thing, taxpayer specific. Typically for international students, there are no credits. You're reporting your income, you're taking the one exemption they allow, you're looking up your taxes, and then you're seeing what the difference is between what was looked out and what was owed. Once you get through the return, you will sign it, put your phone number, date it, same thing, make a copy, attach a copy of your W-2, put it in the mail with tracking. So this gives you the addresses on where to mail your state of Ohio return. You must include a copy of your W-2s, 1042Ss, all that. All right, so now we're going to do school district return. This is the last piece. How do I know if I lived in a school district? You can look up the tax finder, you plug in your address, it'll tell you what school district you live in. If you are here in the city of Athens, you are in Athens City School District. The tax rate is 1%. Like I said before, if you're filing that 1040 NR return, if you're using Glacier to file your taxes, you are most likely exempt from school district tax. You still need to file your return to tell them you're exempt. If you fail to file the return, they will send you a bill. So just be advised. And the bill will have interest and penalties. It'll be hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and it will take much more effort to get that undone than it does to just file a return here. So how do I find out if I had school district taxes taken out of my check? You'll look at your W-2. So down at the bottom, boxes 18, 19, and 20, there are 2 lines. You most likely will see the one on the left. You'll see 1 line and then a blank line. That means you did not have school district withheld from your tax return. So you'll see the highlighted one as an example of if you had school district taxes taken out of your paycheck. It'll say Athens C0502. If it just says Athens, that is the city income tax, which is not refundable. There's no return required. It is not school district tax. So a common error is folks file their school district taxes, and they use that Athens tax, and they ask for a refund of school district taxes. It will 100% get you a bill and a letter because they will see that you did not actually have any school district taxes withheld. You asking for a refund is telling the government that you lived in the school district and that you think that you are a resident of the school district because you're asking for a refund. So just be warned, you most likely did not have any school district taxes withheld. If you are not sure, contact payroll. They can look at your W-2 and tell you, okay? So if it's not clear if you had school district taxes withheld, you can contact payroll. They will take a look and let you know, okay? But typically, everyone filing through the Glacier system does not have school district taxes taken out of their checks. All right, so I'm an individual. I've determined that I'm a non-resident alien. I determined that I am not subject to the school district tax. What does my form look like? Here is an example. I have my social security number, I have my name, I have my address, I have my school district number, 0502, and then in the residency status, I'm selecting non-resident. So the one thing to remember on the foreign address line is where you will put permanent resident of whatever your home country is. So if you're typing them in, you'll probably have to utilize both boxes or print it out blank and write it with a pen. But you will need to indicate that you're a permanent resident of whatever your home country is. This indicates to them that you are a foreign national here temporarily on a student visa, not subject to the school district tax. If you miss any of these steps, it most likely will end up, they will send you a bill to try to collect the school district tax. Same thing, failure to file this form will 100% end up in a bill. And it will take a year and a half before they send you the bill, so it'll be way down the road. But this is what it would look like if you determine you're a non-resident for tax purposes, not subject to the tax. I go ahead and indicate which school district I'm filing. I say I'm a non-resident. On the foreign address line, I put permanent resident of home country. And then on all the lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down, I just put zeros. I don't report any income, I don't report any taxes, nothing. Zeros all the way down. This will be a good tax return. You will not get any correspondence. You will not get any penalties, interest. So if I say that I am subject because I'm a resident alien, then I would indicate income and taxes of, and I would indicate that I'm a resident. So there's both examples of if you're a non-resident or a resident. I'm unable to determine my residency status for the school district to return. Where do I find additional information? Here are the links to take you to help figure it out. But really the rule of thumb is if you are filing the 1040NR through Glacier Tax Prep, you are considered a non-resident alien for tax purposes, and you are here temporarily on a student visa for studies only. You are not subject to the school district tax. All right, I completed my school district return. Where do I send it? So the SD100 is the school district return. It should be, if it's blank, which typically it is for non-resident aliens, I mail it without payment. It's the P.O. Box 182197, which is the third option in the slide here. So once I'm done, I'm completed all of my tax returns. I'm going to mail my federal. This will be posted very soon. Feel free to go to the website, get the slides, walk through it if you weren't able to complete it here. We can still answer general questions. If you guys have any questions, I'll stick around for a few minutes if you want to come you come